Recording in progress.
That's a little loud. Wow, we got an intimate group here today.
Yeah.
Spring break.
Is it really spring break? Last week was my kid's spring break.
The only
and
reason
feel
I
like
know
it
is
was
because I
nobody's.
texted Eric and said, hey, I'm in Nevada. Can you cover me on team meeting Monday? He's like, I'm leaving tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, my kids are on spring break. I think out in South Jordan.
Is it the Jordan
Yeah.
district that is?
Probably.
Hey guys, okay, we're gonna get started. Thank you guys for being here on time. It's gonna be a great class. I just mentioned Eric Jones has hooked us up with Eryn and Allie that are gonna be presenting today. So we're happy to have them here. I'm actually just meeting them for the first time, and that's what I love about these classes is a lot of you guys, a lot of our agents say, hey, I got somebody you guys should meet, right? I bring in professionals in here that I work with and I want to share them with you guys, and that's what this is. So we're going to get some good education, but also connect with Eryn afterwards. There's going to be a contact slide in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So I'm going to let Eryn, Allie, I don't know if you guys are tag teaming up here or whatever, come on up. And while you guys finish your introduction, I'm going to try and share the screen properly. No, let me come over here.
Okay.
So this is Eryn and this is Allie.
Hello.
Okay, take it away. Let me try and find my screen share while you introduce
All
yourself.
right. Well, welcome everybody, and just want to introduce myself a little bit. So my name's Eryn Clark, and I was a real estate agent. I've had my real estate license since 2004, so a while. And I was 10 when I got it. I'm just kidding. I've had it for a little while. It's crazy when you think it's been 18 years since 2004. But and then last year I got my lender's license, or my mortgage loan origination license too. So and then the last 7 years, so from 2014 to 2021, I was selling new construction for Edge Homes. So did a lot of new construction. Probably, I think I've done like over 260. They're not all on the MLS, but I think it was over 260 builds with people.
Nice,
So
nice.
built a lot of homes and helped a lot of people and helped a lot of realtors build homes, helped their clients build homes. So
Yeah, I think you-
and then this is, okay, well, let's see,
Your phone.
and Allie is my daughter. So she's also got her loan originator's license.
So I haven't been in the industry quite as long as my mom. I've only been here since, I've been with First Colony for 2 years, and I have my loan officer license, and I also assist for the head of the Edge team. So we've done just in January, February, and March, we've done 27 million in volume. So I've seen a ton of new construction, a ton of Edge scenarios. I would say 90% of what I do is with our preferred builders. So tons of experience with, and just, even just this year. So yeah, we're excited to share what we've learned. Yeah.
Hey guys, what screen do you guys see? Do you see the one that has the slides over on the left-hand side of the screen, or do you see just the slide? I've got a monitor up and I'm trying to share the right screen here. Ashley, what
The
do you see?
slides are on the
left-hand
left.
side
The slides on the
and
left.
in the middle.
Okay, I don't know why that. I don't know how to drag that over.
Technology.
I know. Well, I want to share the screen because she's got this cool thing that she's gonna do. Well, that's already up. That's why it's playing over there, but I don't want that one. I want this one. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, that actually is weird. Do you know how to use it?
So they're seeing this screen.
They're seeing this one. Well, I wanted to share the screen because you guys are gonna open that link,
Yeah,
right? And
Yeah.
it'll open on this
Can you
screen.
just switch it when they're doing the link?
we can just leave it up. I mean,
Maybe. Well, we're gonna do, okay.
because it's the first thing we do.
Oh, okay. So maybe we just do that and then I'll figure out so they can see the better
That's
slide.
perfect.
Yeah, that
Okay,
works.
should I click this?
So what we wanted to do was just play so basically we want to kind of get to know everybody, where we're all kind of from. You kind of got to know us a little bit. But one of the little things we like to do is say, to get to know someone, it's like when you were a little kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? Like, what did you used to say you wanted to be when you grew up? And I will go, I wanted to be a race car driver.
Nice.
Still want to be a race car driver really bad. I wish I could.
I wanted to be an astronaut. That's like my thing is an astronaut.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, so we can play this game, and then everyone submits your response through just text.
I guess let her, I don't know. So now click it. What it is called a word cloud. and I don't know if anybody's ever done that before, but basically you'll text, let's
Let me
see,
it.
22333. You text the word Ally Vought 531.
Can you guys see that screen okay?
Where it says preferred lenders.
Yeah, do you see the,
Oh.
here, let me switch out these.
Yeah, this is the one that's sharing, so make it look however you want. So 22333
Yep.
is the number we're texting to.
And you're gonna
What
text
is it
the
again?
name 22333.
2 2s and 3 3s.
And you text the word Ally, ALLY, all one word, Vought, VAUGHT, and then 531.
BAU.
GHT.
This isn't a game so far.
I know, it's great.
Sorry, Ally Vought, what
We're
was the number?
testing it. 531.
531, sorry.
And if you're on Zoom, you can still do it, it'll show up.
Okay, Ally Vought 53
I think I.
531.
531.
Let's see
And
if they
then
start popping up.
And then now,
ALLYBAUGHT 531.
think I got it.
VAUGHT.
Okay,
V.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah, I
So
know.
now,
I like
once you've
VAUGHT.
texted
Sorry,
that, you'll get a text
sorry.
that you joined, and now you can text in what you want it to be when you were a little kid. What did you want it to
Oh,
be?
so
when you
now we
grew
can
up? And
just
it will
send a
pop
text.
up. Everybody will, they won't know who said it, but everybody can.
Yeah,
text
it's
it.
anonymous.
Oh, there he is.
I want to
Like,
ask
No, I think
people.
they can.
They can see us. We can't see.
Oh, these guys are seeing.
That's okay.
Event planner, veterinarian. I know, I wish we could show you
Just text
guys.
them.
You just
I
say,
can turn it.
Actress. Ooh,
Yes.
I love that one.
you just say them out loud, we're good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just creating
We'll see about
like an
that.
infographic type
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, and when everybody,
ALL.
why?
Here,
Why?
here, I got
Yeah,
it. I got it for you. Okay, but don't look at my answer. Just
Okay.
kidding.
Oh, no, wait, this is cool.
A
Isn't it
nurse.
cool? And we're gonna do this again. We're gonna do this one more time, so.
BAUGHT.
531.
Yet.
How come they're getting answers? Is it just me?
That's strange. Did you activate it?
Yeah, Chase says it too.
Uh-oh, they're getting,
But,
it says it's activated right there.
well, and there's answers pulling up too.
Yeah.
Actress, veterinarian,
Okay, we have
superhero.
Sarah.
Oh, it's a superhero.
What? Because what?
Superheroes one. That's
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that one.
Oh, me too, actually. I want to change mine. Well,
I did the Ally Vought as one word, you guys did spaces, I don't know. if that's
Yeah,
a
no,
difference.
yeah, do them all as one
So
word.
just all of it, no spaces.
But it's a person.
Yeah,
Join.
it did say-
I don't
Okay.
know.
Strange. Ooh, mother. Aw.
That's so cute.
That's so cute.
Yeah, I used to too. 12 kids is what I wanted.
Oh, until you had one.
And I never got married and I never had kids.
Oh my
gosh.
Wow.
I have probably 12 godchildren.
And now it's asking me if I want to leave.
So I got them in a different
Okay.
way.
That's funny.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cool, because we're gonna do another one.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is
maybe it'll
so
work
fun.
Okay, well, for the record, mine was cowboy.
I was gonna say, if anybody didn't get theirs through, what was yours? Cowboys are
Type
great.
it in the chat.
Cowboys are great.
Yeah, I should agree. I was born the wrong year.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have horses?
No.
Okay, so this next one is the same thing. It's just texting to the same number, same everything. We wanted to hear what everyone thinks when you hear a builder has a preferred lender. I'm sure it's kind of polarizing. So we kind of want to, like, what's the first word that pops into your head when you hear, oh, they have a preferred lender? Just from like an agent's perspective, we're kind of interested.
When the client has a preferred lender?
No, when the builder,
Builder.
when you're like, oh, we're going to see.
You will give you all these discounts if you use our builder and. close
My
costs.
answer is,
Yeah.
oh shit.
Kickback.
I know.
And it's not
BS,
showing.
BS.
Oh.
So we've got kickbacks, BS. Oh, I wish yours was working.
Can you do like a sentence or
It
just
told
a
me I had
word?
to leave.
It does
Okay.
like a couple words. If you don't put any spaces, it'll all show up.
Discounts.
As one word.
Discounts.
Discounts. Or maybe can they put it in the chat if your thing's not working?
Yep,
Incentive.
yep.
Can
I
you
can
see
open
it,
the
chat?
chat, yep.
Yeah, so we can just maybe read them out if it's not working. Darn it, I wish this was working.
Where is the chat? There it is.
It's so fun when you get to. see
Add it in the chat if you can't put it, if it's not saying, acknowledging that it went up on the phone.
Let's see
Cool.
what that
Discounts.
Insider info.
Insider info.
I didn't know how to word that.
Familiar process.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we have some positive people in the
Yeah,
group.
yeah, I knew it was
So
gonna be pretty
I thought it
polarized.
was gonna be, yeah.
Sorry, we're all such downers.
No, I love it.
Very opinionated.
I love it. Well, that's what we
We
want.
want, yeah, we want to address.
Hidden fees. Yeah, another
Okay.
one came in.
Trickery.
Communication. Cool.
Oh,
Maybe lack of communication? I don't know what that
I
is.
think when it's 2 words, it's splitting it up.
yeah.
If you, cool, yeah. But that's what we kind of figured was happening, let's see, we got more. Kickbacks, special incentives, true story. Hey.
What's up?
Okay.
So yeah, so that's what we figured. We kind of figured because it's kind of like already new construction there's so much that we don't know as agents, like we don't do that every day. We don't always know what to expect. And then we throw in that they're saying you have to use my lender, or that's what it feels like when you're an agent, right? You're like, did you just say my buyer has to use, they're already qualified. So it can be like, no, I don't want to have to use my
And it
lender.
is credit. Well, if he called and canceled it, I don't see how.
Let me see, mute
Instead of
yourself,
doing
guys,
the
if you're
PIN
doing
number.
work while we're in the class.
Anyway, he's supposed to come later and bring Emma outside so I can see her.
So who is it?
I'll see how it
You
looks.
mute everybody, actually.
So what happened with the date?
I can probably do a lot of things, Elaine, that I don't know
Everything
how
out
to
of the
do.
fucking Jeep. He was gonna let his wife tow.
Which one was it?
Who is it?
But he has to have it out today.
I'm trying to find it.
And it's not doing any fucking harm, said that. He all has to do is,
Yeah.
well, he'll say, oh, I'll. No, he's not gonna have it out.
Where?
Right there.
And so he's like
There we
struggling,
go.
he's like.
There we
Good.
go. So funny.
This is.
Oh, look, it's Robert.
It's
Call
Robert.
it on, it's Robert.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay,
I should be sharing that screen now.
okay.
So for
Are
you
we back on
though,
track now?
We're
Yeah.
back on track. Yeah, sorry about the detour.
That was cool.
Yeah, I was supposed to be. Not supposed to be, like, if you could see it.
okay, you guys, I switched the share up. Just make sure you're seeing the, let me switch the slide.
And now we know that people want to be actresses, cowboys, superheroes.
No, why isn't that one changing?
Is it something with the cloning?
I need
Oh,
a
it
tech.
did it, it did
No, I just
Oh.
minimized it so I could.
Like it worked. But basically, I mean, we can kind of still talk about it because it really is one of those things where you're like unsure of what it means and what it means for you and your buyer. And if they're, is your buyer going to be protected, or should we use them? Should we not?
That
Are
wasn't
there
changing.
like,
And every builder is different too, so
so we're gonna address that. We're gonna talk about like, what is the back end of it? Where are there hidden fees? Are there like discounts? Are they real, or are they paying for them somewhere
There we
else?
go.
Or, oh,
I
yay,
think it's
you
working.
were so good. You did so good.
There's your little
And this is
clicker.
how we
Mhm.
do the clicker.
Big ones.
I just didn't touch anything.
Okay, so, now we're officially gonna start. So why do builders have preferred lenders? We kind of wanted to start there. Builders basically, long story short, have them the same reason we have them as real estate agents, why we have a lender we want to go to. Just because it's convenient and you know them, you have a history with them, and you trust them. It's the same exact reason we all have them. And then this was a literal quote from actual people who are smarter than me, saying this is why. It's because of there's financial purposes behind it. They want their homes, they want to make sure the person can get a loan and close and buy them, and increase the profits from the new build. I mean, I don't know for sure if we'll talk about that's the back end. And base it on, they trust who they have a history of working with, same kind of thing. And it helps control the process too, like. Sorry, my phone is going off. Guess what happened today? Just tangent side note. We were so excited to be here.
Yes.
We were super excited. And then something brought us down to earth from our happy high place of coming here. My car got broken into. The window got
this morning.
like an hour before, 2 hours before. And then I'm like, they stole my purse. And so my phone is probably going off because there's a lot of things in
Can you
place.
hear it?
I can hear it. It's driving me crazy. But yeah, so it's like, oh, that brings us back down to reality.
Oh, thank
Okay.
you for still coming, geez.
Yeah, it was like, oh,
No, we're so excited.
We're so excited. So that's probably why that thing's just going off like crazy. But, okay, back to the thing.
They're buying a yacht, they're buying a yacht right now in the bank.
I blocked everything.
Hey, are you trying to make this Lambo purchase?
Good luck. Good luck with that.
We need another card.
Exactly. So it's crazy right now. But, oh, this is the other, okay. So now we'll kind of get into how incentives work there's basically 3 ways they work. One of the ways.
Depending on the builder.
Yeah, it depends on the builder. One of the ways is that the lender pays for it. So if the lender pays for it, that means they have an agreement with the builder that they will, and basically the lender takes less commission for that builder's loans, and instead literally gives them the credit from the lender.
Yeah.
And the reason the lender does this is because of the volume from the builder. So. do you wanna say more about that?
So with that, because as loan officers, if we are taking on leads from builders, if they're a preferred builder, we know we're getting less commission, and with that, we also have more wiggle room on rates. So that's how we can be so competitive with our preferred builders, because we're receiving less commission on it, so we can use that kind of as more leverage to get access to those lower rates too, which is, I think, is like the best method.
Becoming more important.
Yes, especially now, yeah.
Way to say
So
it.
that's how come we can be so competitive, which is really nice.
Yeah, it's true. So that's one of the ways is that's just straight up, oh, and I get asked, is that legal? Like, it is legal for a lender to give something to a buyer, they just can't give it to the builder. Or just the same way like a lender can't give anything to an agent, but they could give a credit to your buyer. It's the same principle with builders. Then there's another way, the builder pays for it. I guess, here's how the builder pays for it. We'll say it like this. When the builder is putting together the cost to build a home, so they're gonna go, okay, this is what this framing costs, that, they're going through their literal costs on building a home. They will factor in, so when they factor in all of the costs, then they'll say, what is our incentive? $5,000, let's say. So let's say the cost to build this home is gonna be $550,000. And then they'll say, what's the incentive? $5,000. So they'll say, okay, the price now is $555. They just factor it in as a straight up cost. So now the price of that home is $555. And so they're assuming everybody's gonna use their lender. And if you don't use their lender, if you do end up going with an outside lender, they don't give the credit back. They don't adjust the price. So that's a common way that it's always in there. And then the builder will say, well, I'm assuming there's going to be more of maybe a hassle or a headache. This is kind of builder talk. If it goes with another lender, because it's not mine, that I don't know who it is. So there's some uncertainty. And so that's part of the 5,000, I'll just keep it as part of my profit. I don't know how to explain it. They don't give it back.
An annoyance fee.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to say it. Yeah.
$5,000.
Yes, even though there's plenty of great lenders that are fantastic. You guys all know this. There's fantastic lenders, and that doesn't mean that that's true, because the builder thinks that it's going to be difficult. But that's just, I'm telling you, like the builder's mindset. And then the other way, and another way a builder does it is they'll say, as an example, okay, we're going to offer granite countertops. Maybe that's like standard nowadays, but let's say we're going to offer granite countertops, and the cost is we will throw in free granite countertops if you use our lender. But if you go with an outside lender, the cost of those countertops was $4,000. So we're going to increase your price. So instead of it being $550, if you choose an outside lender, it's $554. Your literal price goes up to the buyer. So those are kind of really the 3 back-end ways that we've seen incentives. But this does not include the builders that own their own mortgage company. Those we don't know. I don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. So they, like Richmond American, they own the lending company that they use. D.R. Horton owns the lending. So I don't know how that works on their side, but I'm just talking about like the other builders who they're just affiliated with a preferred lender, like an outside lender.
Yeah, so there's no hidden fees to your clients, your buyers.
I guess kind of the first one might be. The 5,000 one where they factored it in.
Where it's
Oh, if
less
you
than the
don't
purchase
go,
price.
yeah, so that you get the $5,000 back if you do go with the preferred lender, but
And that's in the form of closing costs generally? or-
Generally, yeah, that first one is usually closing costs, because they'll say, okay, we're gonna give them 5,000 closing costs, but it can be any way they wanna do it.
That's better than the price reduction
Yeah.
though, because it's cash savings for them.
Yeah.
What if it doesn't appraise for it? Like, what if, I mean, if they bring in an outside appraiser and it, because that did happen
That's
to
always
me.
my biggest worry.
It's such a good question. In fact,
That
we
did
should-
happen to you.
Yeah, it did happen to me, but Edge actually came down about 3,000,
Oh, good. That's what I was
so.
gonna say. It's a
That's so
case by case basis.
Yeah.
for sure.
For sure, and whatever the builder's policy is. So like Edge's policy normally isn't to,
Mhm.
like, they will tell us up front, we're not gonna go down or not, but then it's kind of case by case, I think.
Yeah, like appraised for like 8,000 below,
Oh, okay.
so we had to come up with 5, but they came down 3, so
There
kind
you
of in
go.
that 5.
Yeah, that was really good. I'm glad they did. Really glad
But
to
that's
hear it.
stressful for first time home buyers.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
don't have
Yeah, and she was
sure.
first time condo.
5,000 in their pocket.
Yeah.
That's just,
It's hard. Yeah. And did you use the preferred lender?
No, they wanted us to. They were like, well, maybe we can talk to our preferred lender and we can get another appraisal through them.
That's
And it
nice.
was,
Yeah.
it was kind of a weird situation because the person that was referred to me from it was from a lender,
Oh,
so
yeah, I know.
it was a lender friend, right? That, and she worked for the company.
Of course.
So I was like,
Yeah.
we couldn't, it was just,
No.
we couldn't do it. It was just too shady.
Yeah, and that's a really good thing to note too. I've heard
That's
a lot
smart.
of builders are now, well, I don't know if they all. A few builders will absolutely honor that relationship of like, this lender gave me this lead,
Mhm.
and they don't make you be pre-qualified with their lender.
Yeah.
If it's, yeah, so that's good. And a lot of times outside lenders can match incentives.
Yeah.
Depends on how
Yes.
much it is, but they'll give you a
To try.
credit. Yeah, like I'm doing one right now for Salisbury home. And it's a $4,000, we're gonna increase your purchase price buyer by $4,000 if you don't use our lender. But I can give them a seller,
Credit.
or I can give them a lender credit of 4,000 to try and match it, so you try to match it. So hopefully, but yeah, it's hard with appraisal because it is case by case. I don't know, that's a tricky one, but and it is like, when they said you can use our lender and bring in our appraisers, that feels like
I
everybody's
know, it felt,
faces are
it
like,
felt wrong,
no,
it did, it
it
just
feels
like felt
wrong.
kind of shady.
Mhm.
And
It
it kind of
feels-
like,
Yeah.
always go with your gut.
yeah.
Smart.
Mhm.
I mean, I obviously told her, like, I had to like give her all the information, but like, I told her, I was like, honestly, like, it doesn't really feel right, especially since you work for this company, and like, and she's like, yeah, no, like, I want to stay with my lender.
I'm so
like,
glad.
okay.
I love that. I think in this business, we all understand and rely on relationships. Like it's so critical. And I love that, like, she just decided to stay,
Yeah.
but because it all worked out. That's good. But yeah, so that's basic. Does anyone have questions on anything about those incentives that you wanted to ask?
I have a question about the countertops. So I've had that come up obviously a lot lately, but it's hard when we're using an outside lender because they're like, how do we quantify that? Like, and they run into that and then they kind of are like, well, that's why they do it, because it's hard for us lenders on the outside to even know, well, what those upgraded granite countertops have been cost.
Yep.
And so I'm running into that a lot with the preferred, but it just kind of seems that's a way that they can kind of keep it in.
Yeah, like an unknown. With Salisbury, I asked the agent. I was like, I qualified him. I would like to match it. How much is it?
And
Right,
my
right.
agent won't tell us. And we're having, and that's where it kind of, like the spidey senses you're saying, it's like, well, why not type of thing, like, and I told them at their design appointment to ask questions and they
Yeah.
seemed to kind of hold back as well, so it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's so hard. And ideally, it's in the contract. Like ideally, it would be in the contract. I'm huge on that. It's like, if it's just written down, then there's no questions about it.
Yes,
It's all
yes.
good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's hard. Was there a chat about,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If a builder offers a $5,000 closing cost incentive, are you saying that incentive isn't worth it? Or it's dependent on the builder?
no, let's see, if they're offering a $5,000 closing cost,
It's worth $5,000.
yeah, it's worth $5,000. I was just trying to break down like how it's actually being paid for, like where,
Packaged.
yeah, how it's packaged, where it's coming from. But they will still give you that $5,000 in closing costs if you use their lender. So it is worth that amount.
Yeah,
That answers
for
that
sure,
question.
for the buyer, for sure.
Will you scroll it so we can see what it says? Or is it dependent on the builder?
I think you answered that, yeah.
Okay, and there was one before that. I can't. She's I got my IT person.
So this is all on one.
Oh, yeah.
I've had two different people tell me that the builder stole money from their loan. They said they have preferred lenders because their preferred lender makes it easier for draws, etc.
Oh, this is different.
I've one GC say as long as he is within the cost breakdown, if he can just submit within the breakdown, and if he gets counters cheaper, he can keep the difference, which is dishonest.
That
I've
is
had
just-
two people that were paying attention to notice this type of activity. Yeah, I agree. I
That's
think that
scary.
is pretty dishonest.
Yeah, and you're right, you touched on a different, I'm glad you brought that up because there is another type of construction, which is like where you're building a custom home or something, it's not a traditional build, like a, what do they call it, like a, trying to say like.
Rebuild.
Yeah, like the
A
custom homes.
one-time close. At
Yeah.
the beginning, with the draws.
Yep, they do the draws, that's that's a different thing too, that, I don't know all of the details, we don't do a ton of those.
Yeah.
But they do have relationships with like a bank, and they'll be like, this bank will give you money, and that's interesting to see that they were keeping the difference. It feels not right to me too. We
Probably a
all-
smaller builder.
Yeah, I mean, I love these questions and how you guys you're
You're
like,
thinking outside. the
yeah,
box.
and you're saying like, that didn't feel right, so we
Yeah.
didn't do that, or we just, honestly, that's how you have to go.
And guys, feel free to unmute yourself too, if you feel like you need to ask a question instead of type it in there to actually get your point across, so that you can do that too.
Absolutely.
Okay, so some major drawbacks I would say is, I think a lot has to do with the relationships, because like this first one says is you've never worked with them before, you don't know this loan officer, you don't know this lender, so it is kind of scary because you're gonna have to go through a whole new process that you've never experienced before. I would say that's a big drawback. And yeah, you're unsure if they're giving your buyer the best deal as far as like interest rates go or the incentives that we've talked about. And we talked about the incentive being charged on the back end, so like the 3 different ways that it's charged. There's just, because you never know it with you, if you go with a new lender or a new builder, how everything is breaking down.
Yeah, and also like if your buyer has a bad experience, like the one that just found out their money was given as a kick, I gotta be careful how I word it, but that comment is a perfect example of, then you don't want it to reflect on you either, because you
Right.
have a good relationship with your lender because you guys work well and everybody always has a good experience, and that's all we ever want.
Yes.
So it's so scary to go with a preferred lender when you're like, I don't know anybody at First Colony, or I've never even heard of them. I don't know who this, it just puts you up on edge a little bit. So those are kind of the drawbacks of it.
Another one is part of the reason we use preferred lenders is because of the communication. And sometimes with preferred lenders and builders, the builder's really their connection and their client, not my buyer. And so they're left out of the loop a lot more, not always, but they can be left out of that communication loop because they're not really trying to obtain another client, future value of that client. It's like, it's just another transaction where a lot of our preferred lenders are really relationship based.
Totally.
So from my experience, that could be a drawback too.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
one. I was gonna ask if there were any others, but that's a huge one because you're 100% right. That lender is gonna get 1,000 homes from that builder ideally,
Mhm,
right?
right.
And hopefully, maybe 5.
Because they're making the builder happy.
Because they're making the builder happy, yes. And so you're like, well, where's my buyer in this?
Mhm.
Like, are they gonna make my buyer happy?
Kind of left out.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's where it comes down to relationships and experience, because if you're a loan officer in this for a long run, you want to keep that relationship. Like that relationship is everything. That is
Mhm.
like your future deal. Maybe you could do a refinance for them. So hopefully they're thinking long-term instead of just, I'm just worried about what this builder thinks of me and their experience with our lending. company. So,
Mhm. Exactly. So that is a great one. If anybody has any others of drawbacks of using lenders, feel free to say them. 'Cause that's true. Because we're gonna go next to benefits, so we're switching it up. So
Mhm, all right.
last call, let's see if they have, because it's true. I mean, it's good to get that stuff out.
yeah.
I didn't have a comment, just to kind of build on what he was saying. I've noticed working with the preferred, not the communication again with the agent as well. if the preferred isn't used, the agent doesn't necessarily like tell me when the appraisal's ordered. Or like when it should be ordered and when they're ready, like once we get like the inspections done, like the communication kind of tends to be a little bit different on that end, and I find myself calling a lot more. But when the preferred, it just seems to kind of, they have a better relationship, kind of, I guess, and like that feels different.
That is 100% right. The drawback, one of the big things is when you're a preferred lender for a builder, you have access to their system. You see when things need to be, like, you know, like, oh, I call and order an appraisal when cabinets are installed. Most lenders don't know, like, if you are not a builder lender, how would you know that? So like, unless you worked in new construction, I mean, how do you even know that? And then how do you know when that's happening? You're
That's the part that's
totally,
missing.
yeah, you're totally, I remember when I worked at Edge, if I had a client that was using an outside lender, I would say, tell me immediately when you decide to go with an outside lender so I can contact them every week, because they're not gonna know. As we get closer, I have to just be like, it's just more work. It's just more communication. I have to be like, okay, so we're not quite ready for appraisal yet. It's saying this date, but it's gonna move probably, like, there's
And that's
so much.
important.
Yeah, and if the agent doesn't, if I didn't communicate with that lender, they would not know. There is
And
no way
then
for them to
agents
know.
playing middleman, and then it's just
Yeah.
confusing.
Mhm. Or the outside lender can call a buyer and be like, hey, when can I order the appraisal to the buyer, you know, or something. The buyer's like, I don't know anything about this. So it can be, I just always wanted to avoid that. And I would be like, when I was an agent at Edge, I would say, this process can still be totally smooth with your lender. I just have to know who it is and keep, like, I just add them into my loop. Yeah. It's communication's key for that, but with your preferred lenders, they already have that.
Well, and you just said the key factor is the agent really has to be willing to do that.
Yes.
Let's just say not all builder agents want to do that.
Yeah.
They don't feel like that's their job, and where you're saying, hey, let me know, I gotta do a little bit extra, and you're willing to do that. So I don't know, it is all about relationships and
That's-
experiences, and sometimes when we're talking about discounts too, it's just like, you can get to the end of the transaction and say, holy, I would have paid double to have avoided this situation, right? And so going into something based on what you're saving, you guys are all agents, it's the same thing as you. It's like, do I go flat rate or do I go full commission? What's your experience gonna be like, right?
Yeah, that's so true. The
What's
experience,
your support gonna be?
exactly, exactly. Who, is the builder agent really gonna like take that extra step? I don't know. I just think I've always thought we're on the same team, and we'll get into that in the next part of like a successful build, what those look like. But yeah, it's just so huge for the buyer. All we all want is them to have a good experience. It's like, and get into your home. It's our whole reason we do this. But exciting. Yeah, it should be happy. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so the benefits, we've already probably touched on some of these, but efficiency, especially, I work so closely with Edge. I love that I can just shoot the buyer's agent or the Edge agent a text, because we see each other like daily. We're just so close. We have our process down. I have access to all of their software, so that is a benefit of being preferred lender, is they give us logins. So I think that way we can just plow through a loan and close it in like 10 days. It is pretty quick if we need to be quick. So that's my favorite thing.
And yeah, and like, so the efficiency, yeah, they can close. So what happens to a preferred lender? Let's say an outside lender gives a pre-approval. The buyer, it might not, let's say we get to the end of the build, for whatever reason, the lender can't close the loan. The builder's lender, the preferred lender, has to close the loan.
Yeah,
It's like,
we get a lot of like the last minute, not a lot, but it happens maybe every other week. We'll have a loan come in and they're like, hey, we have to close this in 10 days. This credit union wasn't able to do it. There's a huge waiting list. Like right now, I've heard
that's the number one thing.
yeah, credit unions are a few months out. So we get handed those because we can be so quick.
Yeah, and the builder needs it closed,
Yeah.
like now. So like by the end of the month, this has to be closed, and you're like, okay, but they have the process in place to keep the relationship with the builder, so that can be a plus for your buyer if that were to happen. It's not that, yeah, worst case, it's a worst case. The constant communication we talked about, the smooth process, that's because they do have to know construction to do this, and it takes so much weight off of an agent, honestly. Cause it's just like, yeah, they know what to do.
Yeah,
And then, oh yeah, we put keys upon signing. That's one of the perks.
yeah, I kind of.
Yeah, you just get your keys at closing. That's usually because the builder, I say usually because not all builders
Yeah.
might not do that.
If we're waiting for the C of O, they can still close.
They can still
Get their
close.
keys.
Yeah, they can still move in. They
Yeah,
can
it's
still,
nice.
yeah. So that's kind of look for, but you don't, okay, now here's the thing is as an agent, how are you gonna know what those perks are?
Right.
Should be in the contract. I wish it would just be in the contract. I'm a contract person. But if
Well,
it's
that's
not.
just a protection.
It really
Yeah.
is. Ask about it, like, that's what I find the most helpful, we'll talk about this later too, is just ask the agent what all the perks are, but I don't know how you would know to know, will they get the keys before funding, like, anyway, but you can just.
So if they're
ask.
going through you as a preferred lender though, do you have a process where you set those expectations and say, hey, working with us, this is the way it's gonna play out?
Exactly right.
So they should,
They,
you know.
oh, yeah, exactly, it depends on who the preferred lender is, I guess, but yeah.
Well, we're talking about you right now.
Oh, us, yes, you'll know. You will know. We will tell them all the good stuff. And that's the other thing is like, when you get a good team, it does work very well. It's just like you guys is with your team. It all works great. Everybody's happy. The other thing we're seeing, oh yeah, deadlines with credit unions and HOA documents. Condos
Yeah,
are so hard to close for an outside lender. I mean, I know, because we don't just do First Colony, we don't just do builders, we do everybody. And yeah, they're really, really hard because it takes forever to get things from HOAs and different things like that. So if you are using a builder on a condo, their lender will have all the information, which is nice. Yes.
I have a question. So on an FHA loan, if you were to go in, do you have to close and then wait the 30 days for their certificate of like occupancy in order for them to move in?
Yes.
Is that different with a preferred lender or no?
No, they
Okay.
can't, they still have to wait. What the preferred lender tries to do is
Is tight.
avoid FHA.
Avoid
yeah,
FHA.
yeah, we tried
Try to,
to,
there's
Yeah.
another loan program that's super close
Okay.
Move them over.
and switch it so it doesn't have to have the FHA.
Okay.
Or what were you gonna say?
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Basically that?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, that's a very good question, and not all agents know that too. I don't know if I should, maybe everybody knows that about FHA and condo approvals.
having to wait for the C of O to come through before.
Can I still want you for the food?
Yes.
That's, they were calling you over and over. That's what.
Oh.
They were calling- the food was calling me, that's so much better than somebody buying a yacht.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's so nice.
Well, it's better than somebody buying it out on your time. You don't get to
Exactly.
enjoy it.
I'm so glad, yeah, that's so good.
I'm like, she's talking, I'm saying, hold on 1 second.
That's
Oh,
funny.
man,
Oh, good.
That's so stressful. People are so rotten.
It's crazy, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to
We have
bring
some
it up.
stories, we do have some stories in one of our group, a couple cars have been stolen at a garage. And they show up about 15 days later, they do show back up, then even another friend, Rob, I think you know Rob Adams had a dude in his garage at 4:30 in the morning, he came home from his walk, chased after this kid and tackled him. He tackled him, they punched each other a couple
They
times.
punched each
They
other.
both punched each other twice, and then Rob got.
And they got
kicked.
tired.
And the kid, there's a kid, he's a 6'4", 20-year-old, and Rob's, chasing him down. The kid screaming help. He was in his garage stealing from him. Rob took out after him, and he chased him like 100 yards, and the kid was yelling. 4:30 in the morning.
Oh, my God.
Sad story, he was addicted to heroin, he's a returned missionary, he thought he was gonna die, it's in there getting him help, so.
Oh, wow. That's, I guess, yeah, I
It's
guess
all around us.
that gives me a little more compassion because I'm just like currently feeling pretty violated. I'm like,
Oh, absolutely.
why?
No, especially in your, was it in your car?
It was in my car.
In your
Yeah.
garage?
No, it was at the parking lot of the gym. Awesome.
Oh, awesome steam.
I know. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I'll be recorded. Not lost. I go there every day, but it's crazy. Broad daylight.
Was your purse visible?
No, I tucked it under the seat, but the officer said they watch you. They watch people's motions and they know like you lean over and tuck it, or they watch
I
you
do
to
it
do
long
stuff.
before I'm in the parking lot, I stick it in the back. I don't even carry valuables,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, and
You
he
want my
said-
crap, go ahead, take my crap, but you ain't taking the valuables.
Exactly. Yeah, he's
I
like,
mean, I try to be very careful, but
yeah. I don't know. It happened so fast. Anyway, okay.
sorry
We're
that.
okay. Oh, we're good. We're good. It's all right. It'll all work out. But that helps me to have a little bit more compassion. I'm like, why would you take me? Because like, you don't know what
You
their
never
story
know.
is.
Yeah, it's sad, it's sad.
Yes, let's see, I think we got benefits. Oh, the other big benefit though, one thing, I was talking to another loan officer, he's for another builder. And he said, for him, he thinks that the accountability, so this is exactly what you were bringing up, but he's saying it a little different. So what he was saying is, he's accountable to close that buyer, your buyer, to the builder. And it's worth his one deal is worth 1,000 deals to him. Like and so he took it as like, so I'm highly motivated to make sure the buyer's happy, the buyer's agent's happy, and the builder is happy. So I will close that loan regardless of anything. Like I don't even get paid. I don't care. Like, because that relationship is so, his accountability is so, to the builder. So that was an interesting take on it too, was a benefit. Like, that's huge.
For sure.
He's willing to not make anything, do whatever it takes. But yeah, and if you think about it, the preferred lender is also trying to build, ideally is trying to build a relationship with the buyer too. For a
Oh,
long
yeah.
term.
For sure, yeah.
But, and the agent, I
Mhm.
mean, if they're smart, if
Yeah.
they're smart, they're trying to
Thinking
build,
long-term.
they're taking long to, hopefully, but yeah. Let's see, oh, okay, so now this is like the switch. I was like, how do we transition this? Well, I guess the reason we're talking about, and like Eric asked me to talk about this topic is because of this right here. The stats are saying we're gonna have way more new construction. I was floored by the first stat. 39% of homes active on the MLS in Utah County are new construction.
Wow.
That's crazy talk. If you've been in the real estate world for a minute, it's like, that's never happened. It was never that much. And this isn't even including things that aren't like to be released. So I was like, how many more? Like if you have to, like, for example, Edge releases homes on every Wednesday or whatever, those aren't included on the MLS yet. I was floored. And then 19% in Salt Lake County, which seems still like that's more reasonable, I feel like, but. So we basically have to get really comfortable if we want to keep growing our businesses with new construction. So that's, I think this maybe should have been in the top part of the slide.
That's perfect.
Yeah, so we're basically going towards new construction, so you have to get familiar with it, yes. So that's the next one's like the tips to the, yeah,
So here are our tips.
okay. So basically, like I said, I worked as a sales agent for a builder for 7 years. So probably like 260 plus homes built. And so this is sort of my recap of how to have a successful build, because when you first, as an agent, I didn't do as an outside agent, I didn't do very many builds. I don't even think I did one. But so now that you're gonna have to do them, probably, here's some of my tips. So one of them is always setting the expectations up front that we're all on the same team. And we really are all on the same team. And I know builder agents are busy and they're like, it's kind of maybe a little tricky. So we'll just kind of talk about this because there's a couple of ways to protect yourself. Always register your buyer with the builder. There are some, and know like what their policy is. So if you get a buyer's like, I'm gonna go look at new construction, great. When you start sending them stuff from different builders, register them with the builder. So does everyone know what I mean when I say register?
Yeah.
Okay. So do that, step one, so you're protected. And then step two, I would say is like, when you're out looking, some builders won't allow, you guys might already know this, but some builders don't allow, like if your buyer walks in their model home and you're not with them, there's signs up usually that say, if you are represented, stop, because.
They don't read them.
I know, I was just gonna say that, like, okay, from my side, being in the new sale, like sitting in a model home, a buyer would come in and you could ask them if they're working with an agent and they will say no. And you're like, okay, but has someone shown you homes? Like you have to, because I was an outside agent, I knew what that meant. I was like, they don't count that. Like, but has someone shown you homes? And then like, oh yeah. Okay, that's your agent. So not always, a ton of people walk in and they're like, I'm working with so-and-so, they like tell you right up, that's the best way. If you can like, just tell your buyer, say, if you do go into a model home, make sure you tell them right up front, like I'm working with you, you're working with me, they need to know that for your protection. Another thing is, what did I put here? Get to know the builder's process. So I always like to, I guess, realize that the new home agent, they're just a regular person and they will, like, they're getting yelled at every day by something's happened, especially in this market right now. It's like every day something's going wrong and they're getting yelled at a lot. So they can kind of feel like maybe it can be kind of hard to talk about the process. If you're like, hey, I'm curious what the process is. Hopefully they're okay and they're like, okay, yeah, this is what it looks like we're, these lots are 10 months out, or this one's almost done, whatever the process is. I would just talk to them about the process, try to ask them questions, ask them about the preferred lender incentive, who the preferred lender is, ask them, because it's going to come up. It comes up at some point, and it's best if you just already know. Like, if I called to register my buyer, I would ask, like, so what's the process with you guys? Is it, because some builders will have specs only. They'll be like, we only release lots when they're 3 months out. Some builders are like, we release lots a year out or a year and a half out. So just kind of get to know and ask those kind of questions. Also, like, asking questions, what can my buyers pick? Is everything already selected? Another common question is the commissions. I mean, it's okay to ask them about commissions. They get it too. And so they get paid, usually they get paid the same way. Well, I think they all get paid the same way, commissions. So they understand it. I would get asked that a lot. What does Edge pay? I'm like 3% on everything, but like, it's a very good question to ask right now, because we were talking about this earlier. It feels like builders are almost changing even quicker than we even know. So you do have to ask. It's like we were talking about Ivory Homes. Does anyone know if Ivory's paying? Might as well ask. Buyers, they're paying 2%.
2%?
And are they paying 2% on, last I heard they were paying 2% on the base price of the home, not the lot, not the upgrades.
I
That's
believe
always
that's
my last one.
the case, yeah.
So just asking those questions, so it's okay to ask those. The other thing I was going to
Well,
say.
especially if you've got a buyer agreement where they're gonna pay you 3. Are you gonna go back and ask the buyers to pay the other 1%? Are you gonna negotiate it and just say, enjoy your home, and when you're ready to move again, come see me, kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't think about that, but yeah, that's true. So just knowing, so you have to know. Ask for information on the community. Oh, that's another one that, because I feel like you'll probably get asked that and not know, like, what's going on around this vacant land? What's coming in? It's good to kind of, I like to give that information to the buyer's agent, so that when they're out walking lots with their buyer on a Sunday or Saturday when I'm not there, they know, like, oh, like a community college is going to be over there, or a Trax line is going to run right over here.
Right.
Just, you don't know. So asking about the community, just in case the sales agent doesn't just volunteer it, you can definitely ask, like, what's coming around, so that you're knowledgeable. I always feel like as the sales agent for a builder, I always wanted to make the buyer's agent be their resource, ideally. Like, tell them everything, and then they can tell their buyer a lot. It's just good. I don't know, I think. The other thing, read the contract and get clarification, because
Their contracts are way different.
I'm like,
What a nightmare. I
I
mean,
know.
they can just be a nightmare.
I know. So I haven't sold for Edge since 2021. Even when I was with Edge, I have good relationships with realtors I work with, and they will still to this day send me a builder's contract, like Richmond's, Salisbury's, be like, what does this say? And what do I need to tell my buyer? Like, what is this? Because it's confusing. Yeah. And I swear to, like, contradict itself, and you don't know.
Well, and the advantages to the builder and not to the buyers.
100%.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, there's not even a kindness to it sometimes.
Yeah, it'll be like, the builder can cancel this contract at any time. You're like, can I negotiate? Usually no. I mean, I don't know any builders that do. They just don't
That's
negotiate.
just awful.
It's hard. So that's why I say get clarification. I remember Edge's contract would say, the builder can cancel this contract for any reason. And I would go through this contract with the buyer and the agent, so that we all know what that means, and if I've ever seen it happen. So I would say, like, okay, here's the not fun clause that allows the builder to cancel your contract. I've done this forever. And then I'd be like, but here's the reason it's here. This was a true story. This was from my experience. nowadays, everything, it's kind of changed, but back in the day, there was a guy who put 2 homes under contract, one with us and one with another person. He literally went MIA right as the home was about to be done, and we wouldn't have had a clause that allowed us to cancel the contract. He just went MIA, like, he didn't,
The buyer?
the buyer, and then when we finally got to him, like tracked him down at work, like, do you want your home? He was like, oh, no, I figured I didn't need to say anything, I'm going with this other one, I decided to go with that one, but since you guys are keeping my deposit, I just figured I didn't have to say anything. Like, no.
Wow.
So that's why we have a seller cancellation clause. You know that I know, we all know that 2020, 2021 stuff hit us. But ideally, that's the only time I had really ever seen Edge, and Edge doesn't cancel contracts even right now, but you don't know what the builder will do. So I would say get clarification and ask the agent, have you ever seen them do this? When? Why did they do it? Like, I literally do, because you don't know how how it applies, you know, like, is the builder using it? Nowadays, they probably are. There's other stories with contracts, but I'll still get like, and I'll just bullet point, I'll look through it and just bullet point for the agent, like this, you know, maybe ask them about this, it looks like they can do this, or, because you do just need to get a little clarification, like, did they use it? When did they use it? Why is it in here? It's a touchy subject, honestly, right now, because of like all the ones we heard where they canceled the contract, charge them more money to go back to their contract. That felt like being kicked in the stomach. Did you guys like, you were like, why would you do that? But we know why. I mean, we won't get into that, I guess, unless you want to. But, oh, and get to know the builder's agent. This is important because stuff's gonna happen during the build. So when someone's home is being built, a million things can go wrong, and they might. I just set it up front. The best way to set the expectation is there's like over 200 trades going in and out of your home. There's somebody there, a superintendent, it's their job to manage that whole process. And what I used to say to people is, they're gonna walk through your home at Edge, they have to walk through every home every day and make sure it's all right. Like, did we get the jetted tub? Are those the right windows? Was it supposed to have white frame? Like, they're supposed to do that every day. If they see something that was done wrong, they don't call the buyer and they don't call the agent, they call the trade. So if you just say these things to your buyer, they call the trade and they ask them to come out and fix it. So let's say this happened to me. There's supposed to be a stairwell, there's a wall. They have framed a wall. So this is a true story. This lady walked in through on a Sunday. This is when I was a brand new agent and I hadn't set this expectation. This is when you know, they'll have these. So it's in my book of stuff I would never do again. So this is why I say it. But so she walked in her home on a Sunday. There's a wall. There's not supposed to be a wall. There's supposed to be a stairwell. I was camping. No, I know agents everywhere like, no, you didn't have service. So she couldn't get a hold of me. She called her agent. They didn't know who to call. Then they called the builder, the construction manager. His phone's in the truck on weekends. He doesn't even answer on weekends. They tracked down the owner of Edge Homes. She was in a panic because she didn't want her, it was just framed, but she didn't want it to, she was panicked because I hadn't set this expectation that I'm about to set right now. But basically what happened was the manager had told the trade, but the trade couldn't get back until Wednesday the next week. So when she walked through, there was a wall, but
And it was already in the works.
It was already in the works to be fixed. She didn't need to panic. So going forward, going forward, I always tell people like, you could walk through, and I always set up a group text because I was like, you can walk through and you could see something, a wall where there shouldn't be. There's supposed to be a jetted tub and there's not a jetted tub. That was from this week. Text, like, just know, I would set that expectation that it's possible that it's in the works to be fixed, but we need to make sure. So definitely text, but don't worry about it yet. We don't know yet. It will. The other expectation is, your house has to be built the way you said it would be built. And I used to say that, but now I know they can discontinue this granite. The manufacturer stop making jetted tubs and no one can get a jetted tub. So you can't get a jetted tub. What do you do? Like, this was so I get calls from agents at least weekly saying like, what do we do? What do I do? There's no jetted tubs. My buyer paid for a jetted tub. I just ask for a credit. I don't know. See if you can get credit nowadays. But like, those things can happen. And so if we just set expectation with the buyer, like, what we're seeing they might discontinue this granite, or we don't know, hopefully they don't. Like, I guess you used to be able to say, like, they have to get you what you paid for, but basically they would have to credit you, or, they should. But
To have
just,
some flexibility.
yeah, just setting expectations so your buyer doesn't do what my poor buyer did and try and track down the owner veg, or
Oh
like,
my God.
just save their peace of mind and their stress, and we take it on, like, let me take on your stress.
I admire her determination to find the owner.
That's a little crazy. It's a
Yeah.
little crazy.
Yeah, so that was when I learned, I'm like, okay.
But
never let
this
that
is her
happen
dream
again.
house and yeah.
We should
yeah,
hire
she
her
can-
for something.
I know, right?
Deep
Like a
investigation.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I built a few homes, and I walked into one that I was planning to move into, which I did move into it. And I found in the final finishing product of the processes, a man-sized hole in my master suite in the sheetrock that was already painted.
What?
So I got into the contractor list, and I was like, okay, who's been in the house? And all the plumbers been there. I went through the list, I called like 3 people. My plumber answered, and I'm like, hey, everything okay out there? He's all, dude, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it, I fell. He's all, I was standing up tall, working on the sink, I fell backwards, I did
Right
it
in
in the wall. It was a man-sized hole.
Oh
I
my
was like,
God.
goodness.
Yeah.
I was like, why would
It's like,
why would someone break my window? It felt like that. but
Yeah.
It was a total accident.
But see, that's what, I think when you build a
It's too
home.
bad they didn't call you though to find out, to tell
Right.
you,
I
yeah.
know.
He was hoping to fix it
So I
first.
would be like, I'll just fix it, and then they won't see it.
Yes,
No.
that's why I bring it up, they don't call
Yeah.
us,
I think
they
they
don't
did it
call
out
you.
of
It's not add more
$20,
stress, just fix it and never know.
Yeah, but when you, and maybe letting your buyers know, like, when you walk in, there can be stuff. Like, these are just people, your house is not built by robots or anything, these are just regular people who fall off ladders, and maybe you do something wrong or it's not right, but like, they don't tell you that they did that, they just hope you don't see it and they fix it. Really, like, they do just want to get it fixed. I don't know, I'm sure we could have, there's so many stories, but I hope, does that kind of help when you're like dealing with the new construction world? And it's okay to call the builder's agent. I always think it's so good, or I mean, I'm sorry, the builder's agent. I would, if you can get a good relationship with the builder's agent, I know it's like, you can only do what you can do.
Mhm.
It's so critical for a good build though, because you want, like, you don't want to be nervous when your buyer calls and they're like, there's a man-sized hole in my wall. Why is there, and you don't want to feel like, we're just people, so it's like, you don't want to feel nervous to call a buyer's agent or builder's agent, you just want to have a good, like, hey, Eryn, what's up? Guess what? There's a hole in my, and they usually don't know either, so like, oh crap, I will check into that for you, we'll figure it out, but we'll get it fixed, usually it's like, they're trying to like, it's gonna be okay, we're gonna get it fixed, hopefully. But yeah, that relationship is so critical, I feel like.
Well, and you guys have to do this with every builder because they're all different. So you're mentioning Edge a
I'm
lot.
sorry, that's where it hurts.
That's all right. I mean, Edge has some pretty high standards that don't flow through to other builders
Okay.
as far as honoring prices and process. So you kind of have to have this conversation with every builder, because just because you had an experience with one builder, don't expect it to be the same with a different builder, because they might have a different protocol.
Yeah,
on
different
things.
policies, different
Mhm.
processes. That's so good. I'm sorry that I'm only speaking from my experience and what I would do if I were you, but you're right, I don't know. And does anybody have other experiences they want to talk about that? Like processes with other people? I mean, maybe it's a touchy subject. It's okay. It's okay. We can-
Two new builds.
I have two and I'm.
Cindy's over here.
I'm all like,
Yeah, I have questions and so let's talk about it, because it's. don't know,
Well,
for
I
future.
am curious, at what point in like the transaction, if you don't have a good relationship with the builder's agent, could you switch? Cause I really wish I would have done that, but I was feeling guilty, kind of like we were already at a certain point with him. But I'm at the point where it would have saved us so much headache if I would have just made a move.
That is a hard one, and from a builder's perspective, I think you can always go to the manager of the agent, like the sales manager or the person above the agent.
Exactly what I did.
Mhm.
This took-
They will never
this-
know otherwise.
No,
Well, yeah, I said, we walked in there to look and I go, I do not want to work with him. He didn't get up off the table, off of his chair. I mean, it was poor. It was horrible representation. I go, sorry, I don't want to work with him. give me another agent.
And so you can just switch just like that?
Well, we hadn't been
Oh,
under
yeah.
contract or anything,
Okay.
but you know what, you get that gut feeling from the beginning.
Yes,
I
you
mean,
do.
this kid, it was the
Spidey
4th of
senses.
July, it was his 4th of July and 4th of July or the 24th, one of those, and it was like, really? And then one of my agents just closed with another builder, you know. I mean, they couldn't get the contracts and the owner was buying it for his son and daughter, their kids. And they couldn't get the documents to him to get electronically signed. It was like a joke. It was like, oh my God. And then they're the owners of the title company. And this kid comes in, he looks like he's 12. And he comes in, sits down and says, okay, these are the documents you need to sign. It's like, really? First of all, you don't even acknowledge who we are. You don't find out who we are. You don't know who the buyer is. You don't find out who the agent is. You don't identify that you're the title, you're representing the title company. It's like, yeah, it can be really bad.
I will say lesson learned was I actually got on Wasatch Front and I've never worked with this builder. So I searched like the builder and referred agents. And I found this post and he was recommended so many times. I called him. I'm like, hey, if he's recommended this many times, he must be awesome. Should have done so much more research first. And I wish I would have, and I wish I would have switched, but we signed so quickly that I'm like, what do I do at this point? And things were just.
And you know what, it's that
moving
kind of
along.
market right now. It's
Yeah.
just scary.
And it was a spec too, it was a quick move in one, and so, yeah, but we're so close to closing, but they just had standing water in their basement. We went down there and they never lock the doors, so my clients go in all the time, and they're like, there's literally water all over the basement. And we contacted him, and he said, oh, they were hosing it down. It's literally soaked in the base of like 3 walls that are framed, and all the carpets are up at the base of the floor, and all the baseboard is soaked, and the sheetrock.
And
we
it's
had our
finished?
walkthrough
It's
in
finished.
2 days. It's finished. No, not the
No.
basement, but the stairs
But the
are.
entry to the basement is, so
Oh.
there's finished walls.
Yeah, and
I don't think it was a hose. I mean, it was literally standing water.
Why would they hose it
And-
down?
and it was literally, and it was in like 3 separate areas of the basement, just soaking in for a full week. And I contacted him and he literally did nothing about it, and we had our walkthrough in a couple of days. And they're telling us as of right now, they're not gonna replace the sheetrock, just the base, because it doesn't need to be. So, but I don't know, it's like contact, and there's just like this lack of communication and of like, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's frustrating.
Yeah, I would definitely go and talk to a sales manager, or the person
Well,
above them. I mean, if,
That's
in case.
If you're getting this from the builder though, the actual builder, or is it the agent?
It's the agent, he just doesn't know anything, and even my clients are like
Oh, no.
making jokes about him, because he literally texted us through the whole transaction. We got one update, and I've been updating them, reaching out separate and trying to keep them in the loop. And he goes out of town and he says, I'm gonna be out of town for a week, just so you guys know. And my clients are laughing, they're like, we've literally not talked to him our entire transaction, and he's telling us he's going out of town. And the,
Might as well
we
get
won't
out
get
of
any
town.
That's the one
updates.
effort he made.
And he's like, literally the second time
If
we
you were
heard
gonna
from
bother
him.
me, don't.
You know what, your buyers need to get that fixed, and then they need to talk to the builder, because that agent is representing those people, their company. That's what I told him about this,
That's a really
the
good
lending
point.
company, because it was a preferred lender. We used their lender. We used their title company, because you got money and saved all this stuff. They're represented, it's poor representation.
That's a good point to bring up, because often, I mean, agents are just people, right? There's good, there's bad, there's polite, there's, assholes. It's like, but with a builder, it's a little bit different than going to somebody's broker and say, hey, you know what? I really didn't like City. Do you have anybody else in your brokerage that can help me? But with a builder, it's a different situation. I think that probably should come up sooner rather than later.
The big name builder too, so it's, yeah.
Yeah, and they'll want to know. I mean, they want to know.
I would,
Yeah,
oh,
I
absolutely.
would too.
My
Yeah.
name's on something and somebody's working for me.
100%. I mean, they need to know. And the build, I mean, if the agent goes and says, ideally what the agent would talk to the builder. And ideally you could meet on site with the construction manager and talk about what it is. Let the buyer talk about, because, okay, if the drywall isn't damaged and doesn't need to be, it's really nice as a buyer to talk to an actual superintendent construction manager that knows, and it's so helpful for a buyer's peace of
I mean, there
mind.
could be
even if
mold
they
in
don't
that.
replace
That
it.
is
I wonder if they
Yeah.
can see it at its point that you guys saw it, because the superintendent is saying that they're not
They're
gonna do
not
it.
Yeah,
That's
well,
really good.
and it was a super, so,
Yeah.
but I took videos because it happened before Easter weekend. And I went on Easter and looked at it, and that was a week later, because I couldn't go when they told me, and I was like, I'm assuming it's cleaned up, so I went to go like look at it, and it was
And it was
still
still-
sitting there,
The
and we had
water was
told
still
him,
sitting there.
and he hadn't seen it or anything, and so he was like, I'll reach out to my people, but that's literally all he ever says to me is, I'll be in touch or whatever, and I'm just
I
like,
would
can you
go to-
just talk to
I
like
would go
a
to the
person,
owner of
like,
the company. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I would close and then I'd sue
wait until you.
We need a little bit of both.
I'd let
Well,
wait 2
and you know what's
years, let
sad
the
is
mold,
these
let the
guys-
mold build in the base,
Yeah.
beyond the baseboard.
Yeah, be like, oh, okay, now you owe me
We're gonna
the
strip
free
this
house.
off. You guys heard my stucco story. I think I told that last week. I bought a house as a fix and flip and a storm showed up after the client closed. And there was water seeping in the kitchen windows. Because there was just something wrong with the way the stucco was flashed. And sure enough, the homeowner tore the entire backside of the stucco off and called me over on a Saturday to come see what he was doing in his house. And I showed up, I'm like, you're nuts, man. You just ruined your house. But sure enough, the water was getting behind the sheetrock, coming through the windows. Well, the area that showed the most mold was in the basement at the threshold of the sliding glass exit door. And that wood that was already encased, all the structure wood, the 2x4s, totally gross. Like, it was like black,
Wow.
awful, eroding chunks of wood. And so from a buyer standpoint, I
Oh,
could see
that's
where it was scary. So we ended up buying the house, and I made money out of
Thanks,
it again. So I sold it
Look
twice.
at you go.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, I guess I will throw out there, since I do, the agents I have relationships with do reach out to me and call me and ask questions, like, I wanna talk to you after and just help you, just to help you. But yeah, if you guys ever want to talk about that or ask me questions, like, is this normal? Cause you don't know, you don't do it every day. And what do we do at this point? Feel free, it happens like at least once a week, somebody calls me to do that. So feel free to call.
You have a slide with your contact info on it?
It was at the beginning,
Oh,
but I think we're
let's go.
over time.
Yeah, let's go.
We're out of time.
Let's go back to your contact slide.
I do have one other comment I did want to add just for people online too, is I am working with Edge on another one in particular, and I do have a good relationship with that agent. And I was working with a preferred lender of ours, and he actually allowed me to have him write a letter, and he actually reduced in the contract that we're in, it basically says if you use our preferred, you get these closing costs versus these. And he basically made it so when we wrote that letter, we got the incentives as if I was using a preferred. So that's also an option, but like if I didn't talk to him about that, then it wouldn't have been something I knew I could do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I was saying. If like, especially if it's a lender that gave you a lead or something, they want, I mean, a lot of builders will want to honor that. I don't know if that's, I hope I'm not, and they will sometimes give you the incentive.
You're
just
spoiled.
So that
You
I
know.
did.
But
get
he
spoiled.
wrote it in the contract for me.
Yeah,
He-
that's what I
he
love.
wrote it in
the
the,
contract.
yeah.
Yes, put it on.
Yep, yep.
But yeah, it's been so nice to be here with you guys.
Anybody online have any questions before we wrap up?
Yes.
We'll give you a chance.
And feel free to reach out to us anytime if you have any questions about, I mean, we can take a look at a contract for you, or what's the incentives like with this builder, because we see a lot of that, so we
I
can help you out.
forgot. The last slide shows. first
Can
column.
you, can you put in the chat your contact information, please?
Yes, thank you for saying that.
Eryn, what's your email? It's Eryn.
Eryn C.
C.
at First Colony Mortgage. I'm with First Colony. I talked about Edge and sold. I'm with First Colony Mortgage now.
I
It's
just
so
changed
funny.
your contact on my phone.
I know, I
Yeah.
There you go. But one thing I was gonna say is with First Colony, they're the preferred lender for more builders in Utah than any other lender. So if you do get qualified with anyone at First Colony, you get the incentive in all those builders. There's a slide that
Yes.
shows, that's not even all of them actually. So there's
Oh, wow.
tons of them. And so that's a good thing, like if you get qualified with us,
Mhm.
we
You're
can help you with
qualified
all
with all
of
of
those.
those, yes.
And we have the back, you know what I mean, all those benefits of the
That's great.
system.
So if we, That was a question, because they always give you their preferred contact and they always are like, reach out directly to this person. Are we able to then bring in someone else that's a preferred and
At the
technically,
same company.
yeah,
I know at First Colony you can, I guess other builder or other lenders, I don't know, because there are teams for, like, there's preferred lender teams that they could say, no, you're gonna have to use this person.
because they
I
always give
think
me
it's
like
worth-
the specific person,
Yeah.
it's like, but what if I want to bring in you guys and I know you're preferred?
Yeah, I think
you-
at First Colony, you totally can.
Yeah, you can bring it up for sure.
Yeah, because like, that's we are still in the relationship side of business. Obviously, like the way I run my new construction stuff is the same way we do our First Colony loan stuff. It's the same thing. We want them to have a great experience, be on top of things, set expectations, all of that same stuff is coming through the loan side. So that's why I joined with First Colony originally, was because of the new construction side. I knew a lot of, I don't know, it allows you flexibility that way, but. Okay. I will
Awesome,
leave it
that's
to
all
that.
good information. Hey, and don't forget what she said about registering your buyers too. Because they will go out on their own on weekends and go to model homes and look around and not read signs. So if you look up the communities that are in the price range of the areas your buyers are looking at, it's already a big part of the MLS, but one, you'll learn what's coming up, maybe inventory that's not on the MLS. But get your buyers connected with them early. So thank you guys, it was awesome.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, on Zoom, thanks for tuning in. Love you guys. Reach out if you need anything.
Now there's Chick-fil-A here.